Hi there, and welcome to Monday Mastery. It's showtime. I'm author and dating coach Rick Sodebeer, and I'm here to discuss dating and relationship topics and questions and just general relationship advice. So anyway, I'm glad you're all here today. It is Monday, September 26th. It's getting to be very late in the year. And where I'm at in Washburn, Wisconsin, that's right on Lake Superior. Hey, Addie, thanks for joining. Happy Monday to you as well. It's getting pretty chilly. And I forgot to take another picture of the leaves today. Doggone it. We're getting a lot of color in the trees right now. It's a little bit behind what it was last year, but it's starting to get really pretty up here. But with that color also comes cold temperatures, or cooler temperatures. I think today was a high of 52 or 54 degrees, and we'll probably be down into the upper 30s tonight. So it's cooling off quite a bit. I hope you guys had a great weekend, a great week last week, and a great weekend. And let's kick off this week on Monday Mastery by talking about forgiveness. And this is something that I've struggled with over the years from time to time. And the older I get, hey, Lindy, thanks for joining in. Glad you're here. Forgiveness can be a funny thing. So many people have a misconception of forgiveness and especially because we've all been taught that old adage of forgive and forget. Well, I don't believe in that adage. I believe in forgiveness, but I don't believe in forgetting. You want to remember what people have done to you and who's done you wrong. But it is so important to forgive, and the forgiveness is not letting them off the hook by any stretch of the imagination. At least not in my opinion. Forgiveness is about unloading the toxicity, the negative emotions that so many of us harbor after something's happened. I know in my life, probably one of the biggest issues I had was dealing with my father, who many of you know over the years I've shared this story that for 52 years he called me stupid and an idiot. And over the years, all that stuff built up in me, all that anger, that animosity. And it wasn't until we had a serious conversation and he blew up at me and I blew up at him and for things that he said to me, and I got angry with him. And it was at that point that I realized that I had to forgive my father. I had to forgive him for what he had. I guess it would be what he had done to me over the years, how he had beaten me or berated me over the years, and I didn't I didn't forget what he had done, but I forgave him, and I wrote him a letter. It was like a 2-page letter, and it was one of those things that I encourage everybody to do if you're carrying any kind of anger, hurt, any negative feelings towards somebody because of something they've done or something they've said to you. I really highly encourage you to put your feelings down in words. Put it down on paper. Get it out of your head. Number one, that is an incredible way to stop ruminating on it, because you know that it's written on paper. That you can always go back to it and read what your thoughts were at the time. I know when I'm at the height of any emotion that I can, if I write it down, And it actually doesn't even have to be an emotion. It can be any thought or anything that I want to keep track of. I have to write it down so that later when I want to retrieve those thoughts or those ideas or those emotions, I can go back to my phone or the notes in my phone, or a notebook or a journal. Hopefully you all have journals, and they can be very useful for going back and retrieving those things and seeing what state of mind you were in. And it can be a great reminder of where we were and where we are right now. And so that's, to make a short story long. I wrote my dad a 2-page letter, and I sat on it for a couple of weeks. I went back and edited it after a while, and after my emotions had settled down and refined, and I took some of my accusatory language out of there, but it was the beginning of the rebuilding of our relationship, or it was the rebuilding of my relationship with my father. And we started to build a much healthier relationship and a much more respectful relationship with each other. And, those are the types of things that when you're carrying that anger, when you're carrying that, any negative feelings towards somebody, it's so important to be able to release that. Not and it's not for their purpose, for their sake, it's for your sake. If you carry enough of that negativity around long enough, it's going to affect your everything from your mental health to your physical health. And though there are studies that show that scientifically, that if you have a negative outlook, a negative attitude towards life, or you carry enough of that negativity around with you, it's toxic. It lowers your immune system, or it reduces the effectiveness of your immune system. Colds, diseases, those types of things start jumping in and affecting you. And I'm not saying you have to have a positive mood every day, or be able to walk through life with just a smile on your face every single minute of every single day. No, that's not the way life works. But when somebody's hurt you, when they've betrayed you, or and whether it's financially, in business, or whether it's personally, whether it's family, whether it's friends, there comes a point in time where you have to forgive. And I have a friend that we were having a conversation one day, and she told me something that I think a cousin of hers had done, and she said she would never forgive. And as much as I tried to convince her that it wasn't letting her cousin off the hook, and that it was more for her benefit, she just absolutely refused. And she says, "How can you possibly do that?" Well, the same way I did with my dad. I started telling myself, I forgive him. And I even wrote it in the letter, and I said, I forgive you. And when you start saying it enough, it starts infiltrating your brain, and you start to actually feel it. You may not believe it in the beginning, but when you start telling yourself enough, that you hey, Geneva, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. When you start telling yourself, it goes the same for anything. When you tell yourself something often enough, your brain starts to believe it, and it starts to have a major impact on your life. It's the same thing with positive affirmations. You tell yourself positive affirmations, and you become a more positive person. You become more effective in the workplace. You become more effective in a relationship. And so it works the same way with forgiveness. You keep telling yourself that you forgive that person. And I'm not saying that you have to forget. Never once will I ever say that. I always think that you should remember what people have done to you, because if you don't, you become subject to repeating the same mistakes over and over again, or with the same people, or allowing them to do the same things over and over to you, or hurt you the same way. And that's never a healthy thing. And I see so many toxic relationships like that where one partner is just either verbally or physically abusive to the other, and the abused partner keeps going back because I love him or I love her. I really, they keep forgiving and forgetting, and that's a very, very toxic, concoction. It causes us to make bad decisions, one after another. Forgiving, yes. Forgetting, never. Now, that being said, that's forgiving other people. Now, the flip side of that is, how many of you have made a mistake and not forgiven yourself for making that mistake, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's at work, whether it's with family? Yeah. Hey, Stephen. I love it. Stephen with a PH. Glad you're here, Stephen. Stephen's my nomad buddy, and actually he's right across the street from me in the RV park here, and I'm sad that he's leaving me tomorrow and moseying on down the road for slightly warmer climates for a while. So anyway, Stephen, thank you for being here. Hey, Suzanne, thanks for being here. I'm glad you're here. And Suzanne says, unforgiveness keeps yourself in emotional prison. Oh my gosh, that's a great way to term that. I love that. The key to the lock is right by the door. Forgive the person you refuse to forgive. Springs the door wide open. Forgiveness is the key to your freedom, not theirs. That's absolutely right. I totally agree with that, Suzanne. That's awesome. Thank you. And Suzanne is absolutely correct there. It frees you from an emotional prison, and that's literally what we can build around ourselves if we don't forgive, if we keep all that negativity and anger and stuff bottled up, we build walls. And that negativity comes out in other ways. It becomes a wall that starts to prevent people from getting close to you, and not necessarily because you don't want them to be close, but because they sense the negativity and they need to keep an arm's distance away. It's like I've said many times, that you want to keep negativity out of your life. The negative people you need to keep at least an arm's distance away, whether it's family, friends, co-workers, whatever. That stuff needs to be out of your life. Otherwise, you just get sucked into this black hole of negativity, and then life just kind of generally sucks. And Geneva says, great subject. I just had this talk with my mom over the weekend. I told her the hardest thing I ever had to do was to forgive myself while living outside my codependent relationship for these last 3 years. And there you go. And Geneva, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You have to forgive yourself. And if you don't, and I was just having this conversation this afternoon with Stephen, and we talked about the topic tonight, about forgiveness. And so many times, especially if you're a Christian, you believe in God. Even if you're not a Christian and you believe in God, God forgives all sins. He forgives you for the mistakes you've made. But when you hang on to your own mistakes, you're actually setting up a barrier there, or you're setting yourself up, or your standards higher than God's. So think about that one for a second. So self unforgiveness is also a barrier or a wall to future happiness, future relationships. Again, because of the negativity involved. And Suzanne says it becomes a mindset. It absolutely does. And you get to choose. This is the great part of all of this. You get to choose what mindset you have. You get to choose whether you're going to have a forgiving, positive mindset, or you're going to have an unforgiving, negative mindset. It's and it is simply a choice. And I know there are some of you out there that if you're listening tonight, great, or you may be listening later on that say, Rick, I can't even get the words out of my mouth. Well, I promise you. And it was hard for me to forgive my father at first. It really, really was, because, after 52 years of the stupid and idiot comments, I lived in fear that I was actually the stupid and an idiot. And it wasn't until I was having a conversation with my best friend down in Missouri, down at Lake of the Ozarks at the time, and he started to share, or we were having some man time or some guy time, and we got into a very personal conversation about how we saw each other in each other's lives, and he shared with me how he viewed me. How what a friend I was to him, and how he viewed me as an advisor, his financial advisor at the time, and those words just stuck with me. They just it was just it was an epiphany, because it instantly. And I was ready to hear those words. I was mentally ready to hear those words. It was an epiphany, and it instantly overrode all of the years of what my father had told me. It's in trying to move past the negativity, I was able to get positive words implanted in my head, embedded in my head, instead of the negative words from my father. And that made forgiveness that much easier. And when that's, I think that might be a trigger point for a lot of people, is that you have to be in the proper mindset. Or let's rephrase that. Being forgiving yourself or forgiving others, will eventually work its way into your mindset that, okay, I let that go. I've forgiven them for that. I've forgiven a lot of people for a lot of things. Does it mean I hang with them? No. Does it mean I let them back into my life? No. But I've forgiven them. Because I'm not going to carry that negativity with me and all that baggage, because that's what it becomes. It becomes a very, very heavy load to carry. And when you start carrying that, when you start carrying all that baggage, guess what happens? Your shoulders slump. Your head starts tipping down, because you're carrying all that weight. And if you doubt me, just think about it. Sit up straight. Hold your head up. Put a smile on your face, and it automatically changes your attitude. Go in the morning, if you're feeling grumpy, put a smile on your face and stand up straight. Breathe in deep and see what it does for your attitude. All of a sudden, you start feeling a little better and saying, "Yeah, I guess it isn't such a crappy day." And it's just starting. And, if you do that often enough, you take care of yourself, you smile, you forgive yourself for the for the bad decisions you've made. And we've all made bad decisions. That's one thing we all have in common. We've all made mistakes. We've all made bad choices. Uh, um, we've all made the wrong relationship decisions. We've gone back to relationships that we know aren't good for us, but we go back because they're comfortable. And it doesn't make any difference how comfortable they are and how good they make you feel for the next 10, 15, or 30 days. By that time, you start to recognize, oh, yeah, now I remember why I left. And then you're stuck there for another couple of months or 6 months or a year because you don't want to leave. You want to give it every opportunity to work. But no, it's just going to be a revolving door of, and that's what I call those types of relationships, revolving door relationships. Hey, Nancy, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. So you have to forgive yourself, even if you've gone into a revolving door relationship where you date for a while, break up, date for a while, break up. Just learn from those situations. Forgive yourself for making that mistake, and then stop making the mistake. And sometimes that's easier said than done, but it can be done. You just have to focus on it. And you say, Rick, well, how do I keep myself from going back into a revolving door relationship, or how do I keep myself going back to my ex? And I take it right back to the very beginning. Number one, you have to make sure you're mentally and emotionally prepared for dating. You have to make sure that you're mentally healthy. If you've been in any kind of abusive relationship, it's important to get healthy, and sometimes that means taking or getting counseling or therapy. You get a good Christian counselor or therapist, and they can help you move through some of the deeper, darker issues that you had to deal with. But beyond that, start. There are very simple things that you can do. Like I said, do some breathing exercise and deep breathing. Stand up straight. Hold your head up, shoulders back, and you immediately start to push back the negative thoughts, the even to some extent depression. These types of things help in so many ways. Hang on, let's see what Stephen has to say. Stephen says forgiveness in a way is freedom, as I think Suzanne said. A way to move forward in a positive way. Envy is a very interesting word, mostly by others that have not been able to put negative thoughts in a box. That's interesting, and become happy. Yeah, that's a deep thought, Stephen. That's I'm pondering that one because there's so much to unpack there, and I can see where envy is just that's a black hole of that sucks you into the woe is me, and then you can get into the I've made so many mistakes, I've screwed up so many times, how can I ever get out of this? And there's just so many different aspects there. But it's so important to be able to step back and take a breath. And I was getting into how do you prevent yourself from getting back into toxic relationships? Number one, again, it's making sure you're emotionally healthy and ready to date. For most people, if you're just coming out of a divorce or just recently widowed, you don't know what you don't know. there's, to a person, everybody that's divorced that I've met that's newly divorced just comes out of the gates like a rocket and is, just wanting to date and, you know, more than likely get into another relationship. And it's just way too soon, because there's grieving and healing and recovery that needs to happen before you can really be ready for a significant new relationship. Then it's important to be crystal clear about what you want in a relationship and know what your boundaries are, what you want and what's unacceptable. Your must have and your deal breaker lists are just absolutely crucial. And those things will help you from doing the revolving door relationship. Whenever you think you want to go back to somebody that you've broken up with, go back through your must have list and your deal breaker list. And what were the red flags, or what were the reasons it caused you to leave that relationship to begin with? And I almost guarantee you that none of those things have changed. You can have a conversation with an ex, and it doesn't take long to start uncovering, oh yeah, that's one of those reasons that I left. And there's another one. I just had a recent experience like that. It was like, oh, and it's so easy to be comfortable with someone. But when you start putting in the negative aspects of that relationship, the things that caused you to leave in the first place, or that caused the relationship to come apart in the first place, when you start to recognize those and remember those, it just makes the decision a lot easier. Saying, yeah, I love you, but this can never work. And I have a couple of those relationships of friends that I just absolutely love, women that I've dated, but could I ever go back to them? Absolutely not. It's just because there's just too many missing components, or too many red flags. Too many aspects of our life that don't interconnect. And I always like to use the illustration of a climbing rope, or a rappelling rope. When you're coming down this over a cliff and rappelling down that cliff face, do you want to be going down on a rope where a lot of the strands of the rope are frayed and coming apart? Or do you want to be in that hanging on to a rope where all the strands are connected, or at least 99% of them are connected? It just like in a relationship, the strength comes from those threads, those strands being connected. And the more things you have in common, the more things that connect you two together, the stronger your relationship is going to be. Now, can you find somebody that has everything and is exactly like you? No, because there's nobody exactly like you. But there are plenty of people out there that are similar to you that will give you a lot of connection in a lot more areas than some random person off the street. So these are all things that are important to making a healthy relationship. But you have to be healthy, emotionally healthy when you start dating. You've got to, and a lot of that comes from forgiveness. I deal with a lot of people that come to me, especially after a divorce, and they can tell me all the negative aspects of their relationship. And when I ask them what they want in a relationship, they can tell me more about what they don't want than what they do want. And, they can continue to berate their ex. And if you date somebody like that, and a couple of you that went through my course, Dating Made Simple Academy, understand this. We talked about the date from hell. How many of you have ever excuse me, how many of you have ever dated someone that did nothing but talk about and disparage their ex? It's just for lack of better terms, it's an endless rant. And that can be a very, very difficult date to get through. But do you want to date somebody like that? Much less be somebody like that. So it does take time. And in Geneva, I've been so proud of you, watching you over the last year or so since you've joined the broadcast on a regular basis. That I've watched your progress through a variety of different situations, and it's fun to watch your progress. Let me grab a drink here. There we go. So, anyway, I've ranted for about half an hour now. If you guys have questions, shoot me some questions, and I'd be happy to answer any question, off topic or on topic, either one. But forgiveness is so important for you, not for anybody else. It's time to let things go. It's time to get emotionally healthy and be the person you'd love to date. And if you think about hanging on to grudges or unforgiveness, however you want to phrase it, is that the kind of person you want to date? If not, then don't be that person. And so, just kind of looking, just make sure that I'm caught up to date on comments. So anyway, yeah, that's probably all I've got on forgiveness. Unless you guys have other questions, we'll move on to something else. And if you guys have requests, this is the request, the hit request line. Anyway, just lost the thought. Anyway, that happens. Hey, Addie. I'm sorry. Sorry for that. Addie says no questions from me this week. Believe it or not, that's all right, Addie. We're cool. No, there's a lot of aspects about dating. Dating and relationships. There are so many moving parts to dating, and Addie and Nancy went through my course, and so they know what I'm talking about. It starts with getting emotionally healthy, and again, that includes forgiving those around you that have hurt you, or those that you've been with that have hurt you. It's about being clear on what you want, knowing your must-haves and your deal breakers. It's about understanding what healthy relationships look like, because most of us have grown up in dysfunctional homes, or in dysfunctional families that all we know as normal, and I use air quotes there, all that we know as normal, is what we grew up with, family, friends, those types of relationships, and very, very few relationships were actually healthy. I think the statistics said, the last time I checked, was only about 12 to 15% of households are healthy, normal, normal households where they're not dysfunctional or minimally dysfunctional. We all, and don't misunderstand me, there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. There's going to be arguments, there's going to be upset, there's going to be life events that happen that throw us off kilter. They throw stresses on our life that we don't normally see every day. Somebody dies, somebody loses a job, somebody gets sick. They all put pressures on us, but the strongest relationships are able to work through those without generally significant problems. I mean, there may be financial issues from time to time. There may be you know, other things that create problems. But when you're in that extraordinary relationship, you're working together. You're working to make sure your mate, that you're the best that you can be for your partner, and they're doing the same for you. You're giving 110% to the relationship, with no expectations of anything in return, and they're doing the same for you. Now, how many of you can say you've actually been in that kind of a relationship? Move my hand here. And those relationships. Those relationships are very few and far between. But that's why it's so important to take the time to look for them, to find them, to nurture those types of relationships. And Addie says, I grew up in a fairly normal family upbringing, yet I've made some decisions in life. You'd think I grew up in in dysfunction. Well, that happens too. We all make wrong choices along the way, and again, that's why it's important to forgive ourselves for those choices. And sometimes those choices, those decisions that we make, take a long time to recover from. So it's just, it's just part of dealing with life on a day-to-day basis. So then when you understand the foundations, the all the working components of a healthy relationship, being able to develop an intellectual connection, a spiritual connection, an emotional connection, and a physical connection. And in physical, I'm just not talking about sex. We all would like a good sex life, but physical connection also includes being attracted to each other, and that's a big part of it. We want to wake up next to somebody that we're attracted to, and surprisingly enough, as you get to know somebody, what might not be physically attractive, or someone that might not be physically attractive initially, can become much more attractive once you develop an intellectual connection with you. Once you get to know that person as a person, once you get to know them deeper and learn and understand their character more, there's a great deal of relationship that can be developed just by getting to know someone. And that's why I always encourage people to go out and date casually, especially initially, because then you get to meet people that you don't normally meet in your daily walk through, that you wouldn't normally date. Let's put it that way. Date people that you wouldn't normally date, and you'll get to see qualities or characteristics that you find endearing or desirable in your next relationship. It's easy to think that right now we know everything that we possibly could want. But I know, as I've dated over the years, the last 10 or 12 years, I've learned, I've recognized a lot of qualities that I want in my next relationship that I would never have learned had I not dated. And many times it was dating casually. And there was a lot of one and dones. You date somebody thinking, there could be some possibility here, but you get out on a date and not so much. So you find that there are traits that you find undesirable, and there are traits that you find that you will find desirable, but you can add those to your must-have or your deal-breaker list. And as you continue to build those lists, it gets a little more difficult to find that specific person. But if you stay with it, you're eventually going to be successful, as long as you're active, and that's a key role. You can't be at home and be a couch potato and expect your knight in shining armor or your Cinderella to show up on your doorstep. You have to be out and be active. And the only way to do that is to get out. Go to charity events, go to social events, join um, meetup groups, join church groups, join and don't join just to find to find somebody to date. Join because you have an interest in those groups. If you join just to find a guy or just to find a woman, you're going to be found out quickly, and you're quickly going to be excluded from a lot of things. So it's very important to join for the right reasons. Join because you enjoy doing something. If you join a hiking group, do it because you enjoy hiking. Okay, I think I see this one coming. Now my plan is to sit at home and wait for the right Amazon delivery guy. I like that. Thanks, Addie. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the spirit, Addie. Um, no, Addie is actually, Addie jokes, but she's actually done some good work in the area of dating, because we've talked about that. She shared that with some of her activities, her successes with our Dating Made Simple Academy Facebook group. And that's not to segue into that, but you kind of drop that one in my lap. With the Dating Made Simple Academy, we have a Facebook group, and we did Zoom calls for 8 weeks. We did group coaching, and it was really, really an awesome experience. I think all of the participants enjoyed it, because I know I sure as heck did. We shared ideas, we shared experiences, we shared some deeper learning. In relation to individual experiences, and how you might apply that to uh, each individual experience. And Addie says it was great. Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and it was a better experience for me than I thought it would be. And Addie says, dating made simple was great, as it was learning from everyone. And that's right, because in that group you got to learn from other people's experiences and other people's comments and other people's views, not just mine. And that creates an awesome learning environment, and it helps all of us move forward. It even helps me in coaching other people in learning from your experiences. And there will be I'm going to have a webinar on October 5th, and it's going to be about the 5 biggest dating and relationship mistakes. And these are mistakes that over the years I've I find most common in talking to people and in working with my clients. And it's and I they're the most, and we've all made at least one or two of them, and some of us have made all 5. Because everything from dating with a chip on your shoulder to sleeping with somebody too soon to all the rest of them. And Nancy says, yes, the Dating Made Simple Academy was such a great learning experience. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. And for those of you that are watching now and watching on the recorded version, it is a great program, and we'll be going on October 5th. And it'll be 3 o'clock Central Time, and it will be recorded, but you have to register for it to get the recording. And we're going to go through those 5 the 5 biggest mistakes, and then I'll share with you how the Dating Made Simple Academy can address those mistakes and help you keep from making those mistakes in the future. And that really is key, is to start recognizing mistakes that you've made or that you are making, and to stop making them. And so many times it's easy to identify a mistake, but from the outside. But when we're actually making the mistake, it's like, really, what's going on here? Why do I keep falling into these poor relationships? Why do I keep why do I keep ending up with the same type of person? It's just same problems, just a different package. So we will go through a lot of that, and I'll share how the Dating Made Simple Academy can help you address some of that, and help you become an intentional dater. And that's one of the things that I found, is that it's so important to date intentionally. And most people, and I was one of those. I was as bad as anyone. It was just dating randomly. If a woman was attractive, yeah, I'd want to date her. And then it became, when I started recognizing the importance of having my must-have and my deal-breaker list, I started to recognize that, yeah, it looks, while looks are important, they're not everything. It's important to be able to have a conversation with somebody. It's important to have a spiritual connection. At least for me, I want to be able to go to church with somebody. And I want to have good religious conversations or spiritual conversations. And I want to be able to develop an emotional connection to somebody. And that connection is important because it makes you want to be the best person that you can be. It makes you want to be that somebody's soulmate. For lack of better terms. And the question I ask in the course is, are you the person you'd love to date? And if you're not, what do you have to do to become that person? It's easy to say, yeah, I want this and this and this and this in my next relationship. But if you're not the person that you'd love to date, why do you think that anybody's going to want to be with you? And I'm not trying to put anybody down, but you have to think through these things. And that's all part of dating intentionally. It's being intentional about what you do, what you look for in a relationship, and what you want to avoid in a relationship. There are so many moving parts, and we can even get into love languages and our love styles, and there are so many things that if you're paying attention, you can develop a much stronger, deeper connection to somebody than just by trying to randomly date somebody, get into a relationship, and then try to work on it and force things to come together. And sooner or later, you're going to realize that you just spent the last 2 or 3 or 5 years with someone that really you knew from the first 30 days wasn't really what you're looking for in a relationship, but you thought, what the heck, let's give it a try. And we don't want to do that anymore. The whole point of dating is to find that extraordinary mate, or to find your soulmate. And if you're not dating intentionally, you're dating randomly, and you're not dating from a position of focus and of power. You're dating from a position of weakness, and you're susceptible to falling into toxic, unhealthy relationships just because you're blindsided, or you don't see characteristics that you really don't want to deal with. So anyway, but watch for that. That's coming up. I've got some ads on Facebook, and I've posted a couple of I've posted a couple of times on Facebook on my page, both my business page and my personal page. So watch for a couple of more posts there. And if you'd like to sit in on the webinar or get the replay, sign up. There's no cost. The webinar is free, and I'm there to help give you some solid information, whether you're interested in the course or not. And we'll have a deal on the course, and we'll have some goodies to go along with it, including 8 weeks of 8 weeks of group coaching, and that's a pretty fun, healthy experience for everybody, all involved. And I know it's always a learning experience for me. So anyway, with that, if nobody has any other questions or comments, we'll wrap it up for today. And I want to thank you all for joining me. I hope you all have a great and blessed week. And we'll hang here for just a minute to see if somebody pops in. But I'll be here for one more, maybe 2 more weeks in Wisconsin. Then I'll be back in Kansas City or in the Kansas City metro area for about 6 weeks. And then it'll be off to someplace south. So yeah, we'll have that adventure going on for us this winter too. So anyway, okay, it looks like there's no more comments. I thank you all for joining here. I love you guys. Thank you for your comments. Have a great and blessed week, and I'll see you next Monday for... Addie says, you plan on being at the October meetup? Yes, I do. I haven't picked a location yet. If you have a location that you'd like me to check out, let me know. But that's something I've got to do this week. So, but yes, I will be there October and November, and we'll rock and roll from there. So thanks, Addie. And I will see you all next week for Monday Mastery. And check out for those of you that may catch this on YouTube, check out my Facebook page at Rick Soderbeer Coach, and like the page or follow the page, and you get notified every time there's a new video coming up. So anyway, have a great and blessed week, everyone, and we'll see you all next Monday at 6 p.m.